My sister slapped me in a high-end store when I was buying diamonds for myself, until a stranger stepped in, seeking revenge for me. It was a Tuesday like any other, or so I thought. I walked into Bellamy's, a jewelry store so extravagant it could make anyone feel out of place. But today, I was different. Today, I was finally going to treat myself to something I had worked years to afford, a pair of diamond earrings. I'd saved, sacrificed, and fought for this moment. But just as I was about to make the purchase, the doors chimed, and my sister stepped in, her face twisted in rage. And then before I even realized what was happening, her hand slapped across my face, echoing through the store. What happened next would change everything. Let me tell you the whole story. I'm Katie, and last Tuesday I was standing in Bellamy's, a jewelry store so opulent that it had its own postcode. I was there with a warm heart, admiring a set of diamond earrings that I had saved up for months. After years of barely getting by, I finally had reason to celebrate. But just as I was ready to make the purchase, the doors chimed, and my sister Lily came in, her face a mask of rage. Before I could blink, her palm touched my cheek. The sound rang through the hushed store, piercing and terrible. So what happened next? That changed everything. Growing up with Lily was like living in the path of a Category 6 hurricane. She was 3 years older, always appeared prettier, and was unquestionably the center of the universe. While I was working after-school jobs since I was 17, trying to make ends meet, Lily jumped from interest to friend group, completely confident that our parents would cover it, which they always did. Our childhood home was not a mansion, but we had everything we needed. My father was a high school teacher. My mother managed a tiny store. They pulled together enough money to provide Lily with whatever she desired, including dance lessons, cheerleading camps, and new clothes for each season. Me? I saved my babysitting money to buy art supplies and graphic design software. Katie, be reasonable, Mom would reply when I dared to bring out the obvious favoritism. Your sister needs more support, you've always been so independent. Being independent was not an option for me, it was about survival. By 21, I was working full-time at a print shop and attending night classes for my graphic design degree. Meanwhile, Lily stayed at home until she was 24, when our parents eventually gave her an apartment as a graduation present after her third effort at community college. Last month, however, something changed for me. It was my 5th anniversary with Stonebrook Designs. I'd worked my tail off to advance from junior designer to managing significant clients. My boss, Rachel, had just awarded me a significant increase for landing this massive new campaign. For the first time, I had breathing room. There is real breathing room. And I decided, you know what? I'm getting myself something I've always desired but never allowed myself to have. Real diamond earrings. The Sunday before the jewelry store incident, we had our customary family dinner at my parents' home. I was so anxious to share my promotion news, but Lily automatically took over the conversation. Everyone, I have an announcement, she'd exclaim, showing a big diamond ring. Ethan proposed. We're getting married next spring. Ethan, her 6-month boyfriend, only grinned uncomfortably alongside her. His main draw, as far as I could tell, was his luxury automobile and commercial real estate career. Oh sweetheart, that's wonderful, Mom exclaimed, running to hug her. Dad patted Ethan on the back, as if he had won the lottery. When I eventually mentioned my promotion, Mom simply nodded distractedly. That's nice, honey. Now Lily, tell us how he proposed. That night, something within me hardened. The earrings were no longer an indulgence, they were a statement, a rebellious, bright reminder that my accomplishments were important, even if only to myself. Bellamsey was not the most expensive jewelry store in Phoenix, but it was undoubtedly the most scary. Crystal chandeliers glistened overhead, throwing rainbows on glass display cases. The workers wore fitted clothes, and security cameras monitored every action. I'd strolled past it numerous times but never dared to enter. That Tuesday morning I took a half-day off work. I put on my nicest navy dress, groomed my hair, used modest makeup, and even wore heels, which is unusual for someone who lives in sneakers and jeans. I wanted to seem like I belonged there. Pushing open the thick glass door, I was greeted with the delicate notes of classical music and the subtle aroma of costly perfume. A tall, attractive woman with silver-streaked hair approached me with a friendly grin. Welcome to Bellamsey, how may I assist you today? My mouth dried up. I'm looking for diamond earrings, I said, my voice somewhat unsteady. Something small but of good quality, it's my first real purchase. Instead of the condescending look I expected, Tara's eyes shone brightly. Your first diamonds, that's a special milestone. Let's find something perfect for you. She brought me to a display describing cut grades and clarity as she showed me many pairs. I was just beginning to unwind when the door chimed again, announcing another customer. I wouldn't have turned around if not for the voice. It sliced through the elegant environment like a jagged knife. "Oh my God, Katie, what are you doing here?" Lily stood in the doorway, flanked by Bridget and Kayla, two of her college classmates. She was dressed in skin-tight white trousers, a pink silk top, and heels that made her 3 inches taller than me. Her recently highlighted blonde hair cascaded in beautiful waves down her shoulders. "Are you lost?" she said, her voice echoing. "Isn't this place out of your league?" Tara's brow furrowed slightly, but her professional composure remained unwavering. "Your sister is looking at our diamond collection. Would you care to join us?" Lily laughed as she strode toward us, her buddies trailing behind. "Yes, unfortunately we shared DNA, though you'd never guess by looking at us." The suggested comparison weighed heavy in the air. Lily had always been the picture of beauty, with her golden hair and blue eyes. I resembled her father's side, darker looks, more athletic. "I didn't know you were going shopping today," I answered, attempting to maintain my voice. "Are you looking for wedding bands?" "Just browsing," Lily said, glancing into the case. "Ethan and I will probably go to Cartier in Scottsdale. What are you buying?" "Costume jewelry." Tara cleared her throat. "Actually, your sister has excellent taste. She's considering these half-carat diamond studs." Lily's brows sharpened as she inspected Tara's earrings. "Half-carat with your salary? That seems excessive." "I got a promotion," I answered, feeling heat surge up my cheeks. "I can afford them." "A promotion at that little print shop, impressive," Lily said sarcastically. "What does that mean? An extra $1 per hour?" Bridget snickered. Kayla pretended to check a bracelet. I spotted an older couple across the store watching us with disapproving looks. "It's a graphic design agency, not a print shop," I said, knowing Lily wouldn't notice the difference. "And the raise is substantial." "Well, good for you," Lily said, taking up another pair of earrings. "Though if you had any financial sense, you'd invest that money instead of blowing it on jewelry. But that's always been your problem, hasn't it?" Poor decision-making. 5 years of therapy had taught me not to fall for Lily's bait, but her words still stung. Tara, noticing the tension, softly attempted to redirect. "These would look great with your complexion," she added, placing the earrings up to my ear. "The princess cut catches light magnificently." "They're perfect," I said, deliberately ignoring Lily. "I'll take them." "Seriously?" Lily moved closer, her cloying aroma overwhelming. "You're going to spend thousands on earrings just after I announced my engagement? This is very typical of you." The accusation surprised me. "What does buying earrings have to do with your engagement?" "You can't stand the fact that I'm the center of attention for once." "You've always been jealous of me," Lily said, drawing a security guard's attention to us. For once I laughed incredulously. "You have always been the focus of attention. I've lived my life in your shadow." "Ladies," Tara interrupted, "perhaps we could—" Lily cut her off. "In my shadow? That is an impressive sum. Mom and Dad brag about you because of your scholarship and professional accomplishments. Poor Lily can't compete with the flawless Katie." The utter distortion of reality surprised me for a moment. Had we grown up in the same house? Had she not noticed how many times our parents had emphasized her needs, wants, and dramas? "That's not true. And you know it," I remarked quietly, acutely aware of the crowd we'd gathered. 2 additional sales assistants froze, and an exquisite woman examining necklaces took a step back from her display. "Do you know what? I don't have to hear this." I glanced to Tara. "I'd like to purchase the earrings now." "Don't you dare leave me." Lily grasped my arm, her manicured nails piercing into my skin. I drew away. "Do not cause a scene, Lily. This is embarrassing." "Am I embarrassing? You're the one who buys expensive jewelry to make my engagement stand out." "Not everything is about you," I responded, losing patience. "It has nothing to do with your engagement. I earned this money. I've saved for months, and I'm finally treating myself." Tara slipped the earrings into a velvet box and approached the cashier, apparently intending to speed up the transaction. Lily followed, her cheeks flaming. "How much are those earrings anyway?" Tara hesitated, turning to me for approval. I nodded. $2,800, she said calmly. Lily's jaw dropped. $3,000? Are you insane? That is how much Mom and Dad paid for my entire semester of college. I worked during school, I reminded her. This is my money. It is a waste. A total waste, Lily's voice resonated throughout the store. You're just trying to prove something because you're jealous of my ring, my fiancé, my life. I'm not jealous of you, Lily, I responded, the plain truth ringing. I never have been. The truth seemed to awaken something within her. Her face distorted with wrath, and before I could respond, her palm shot through the air and hit my cheek. The sound cracked like a whip in the silence of the store. My cheeks flushed with pain, and tears welled up in my eyes. The store became utterly silent. The classical music suddenly became muffled, as if someone had turned down the volume on reality itself. My palm moved to my stinging cheek as I peered at my sister in bewilderment. In 27 years, despite our conflicts and disagreements, she had never hit me. Not once. Tara's mouth formed the perfect O of shock. Bridget and Kayla had stopped in their tracks, their gaze drawn to the floor tiles. The security guy straightened and moved toward us, and then a deep authoritative voice pierced the silence behind me. Touch my wife again and see what happens. The voice belonged to a tall man in his late 30s, dressed immaculately in a charcoal suit that screamed custom tailoring. His dark hair was well styled, and his jawline looked like it was cut from marble. But what struck me the most were his eyes, which were steel gray and unwaveringly focused on Lily. Excuse me, Lily faltered, her confidence wavering. The man took a step forward, slightly in front of me, and said, You heard me. If you raise your hand to my wife again, you will be sorry. Confusion spread throughout the store. Tara glanced at us with wide eyes. Even the security guard hesitated. Your wife? Lily repeated, her eyes flitting between the stranger and me. I was equally confused, too stunned to speak. Wife. I hadn't seen this man before. Yes, my wife. The man repeated, his voice controlled but firm as granite. And I don't appreciate witnessing her being assaulted in public. Lily's face flashed with terror as she noticed the man's fine watch, the quality of his clothes, and his imposing presence. For once she appeared at a loss for words. The man turned slightly toward me, and I noticed a spark of surprise in his eyes as he saw my face more fully. His confident expression trembled briefly before he recovered. Sophia, are you okay? He inquired, his tone softening noticeably. I'm not, I said, but he had already returned to Lily. I'm not sure who you are or what your problem is, but this behavior is totally unacceptable. I recommend that you leave before I have security escort you out. Lily's amazement had given way to wrath. Are you even aware who I am? This is my sister, not your wife. Her name is Katie. The man blinked and returned his attention to me. As the idea dawned on him, a small flush rose up his neck. I apologize for the confusion, he continued, his composure briefly slipping. But my point remains. Your behavior is unacceptable. I've finally discovered my voice. Who are you? Oliver Grant, he said, holding out his hand. I truly apologize for any misunderstanding. From behind, you resemble my wife, Sophia. The name was registered instantaneously. Oliver Grant founded Innovate Tech, a software company that revolutionized digital security. His net worth was estimated at several $1 billion. His visage appears on occasion in business journals. You're Oliver Grant. Lily's tone transformed abruptly, from wrath to nauseating sweetness. Wow, what an honor. I'm a huge fan of your work. Oliver did not even look at her. Are you okay? He asked me again. That looked painful. I nodded, my cheeks still hurting. I am fine. Just an error in identity. The mistake was mine, but my concern is genuine, Oliver stated. Family disagreements shouldn't escalate to physical violence. It wasn't a disagreement, Lily clarified, urgently attempting to salvage the situation. Sisters, we were simply joking around. Katie understands I didn't intend anything by it. The audacity of the falsehood made my fury boil. That's not true, I said, my voice clear and calm. You slapped me because I wouldn't let you make me feel small about buying something nice for myself. That's absurd, Lily exclaimed, looking at Oliver with a plea. Katie always exaggerates. She's furious because I recently got engaged and she's still single. Oliver's expression remained neutral. I observed the entire discussion. You were undermining her accomplishments and attempting to make her feel guilty about spending her own money. When it didn't work, you turned to physical aggression. The security guard had finally arrived, accompanied by a distinguished older man dressed in a pinstriped suit. Mr. Grant, the older man remarked, his tone deferential. Mr. Bellamy, is there a problem? Oliver responded with a nod of greeting. This woman, he motioned toward Lily, just assaulted another customer. So this was Bellamy from Bellamy's Jewelry. The owner had arrived to investigate. I did not do such a thing, Lily insisted. It is all a misunderstanding. Tell them, Katie. All eyes turned to me. For a minute I felt the old temptation to smooth things up, to downplay the incident for the sake of family harmony. It was something I had always done. But something inside me changed when Lily's palm touched my face. She slapped me, I said firmly, the words solid, because I decided to buy these earrings instead of listening to her criticize me. Mr. Bellamy's expression darkened. We have a zero-tolerance policy for violent behavior at our establishment. I'm afraid I have to ask you to go immediately. You can't be serious, Lily exclaimed. Do you know who our father is? I don't believe that's relevant, Mr. Bellamy said coolly. Frank, please escort this lady and her companions to the exit. The security guard stepped forwards. This way, please. Katie, you can't let them do this, Lily said again. Tell them we were just having a sisterly spat. I said nothing, watching Frank softly but forcefully bring Lily to the door. Bridget and Kayla followed, their faces appalled. At the door, Lily turned around. You'll regret it, Katie. Wait till Mom and Dad find out how you embarrassed me in public. Following their departure, the store remained uncomfortably silent. Oliver Grant turned to me with genuine sadness on his face. I apologize for complicating the situation. Please let me make it up to you. Perhaps coffee when you've finished your transaction. I would like to explain adequately. I hesitated, unsure what to make of this strange change of events, but something in his genuine gaze compelled me to nod. Okay, coffee would be nice. Mr. Bellamy personally completed my transaction while profusely apologized for the terrible circumstance. I signed the credit card slip with trembling hands, still absorbing the maelstrom of events. As Tara handed me the characteristic blue bag containing my earrings, Oliver Grant calmly waited by the door. I joined him, perplexed as to how a millionaire computer entrepreneur had found himself involved in my family issue. Oliver recommended a tiny cafe around the corner, away from the busy main street. It was an attractive venue with private booths and mellow jazz playing, the type of establishment I'd ordinarily pass by, figuring it was beyond of my price range. I come here when I need to think, Oliver remarked as a server showed us to a corner table. The espresso is excellent, and they respect privacy. When we were seated with coffee, an Americano for him and a latte for me, Oliver leaned forward, sincerely apologizing. I need to describe what happened back there. My wife Claire is in London on business, and I was at Bellamy's looking for an anniversary present. When I saw you from behind, I saw your height, hair color and style, and even the blue clothing reminded me of her. When that woman slapped you, I reacted instinctively. It's okay, I answered, still processing the strange sequence of events. Your action likely kept things from getting worse. Lily does not handle public correction well. Oliver's expression darkened slightly. Family can be complicated. I shouldn't presume to understand your relationship with your sister. No, you read the situation correctly, I said, curling my hands around the steaming mug. Lily has always been our favorite child. She isn't used to my standing up for myself. Family dynamics. Oliver nodded. I am familiar with the notion. My younger brother and I shared a similar bond for many years. Something about his tone piqued my curiosity. Has it improved? Oliver sipped his coffee. Yes, eventually. It required space, time, and some unpleasant conversations. Tyler loathed being in my shadow once Innovate Tech took off. He felt like he was constantly being compared to me. That sounds familiar, I replied. But in my case, I was constantly in Lily's shadow. The basic issue remains the same. Oliver said, comparison steals joy. When Tyler and I recognized the schism between us and began communicating openly, things improved. He now runs our European operations entirely on his own merit. The conversation flowed very well. Oliver Grant may have been a billionaire, but he spoke without pretense, listening intently as I detailed my relationship with Lily and my parents. So these earrings, he motioned to Bellamy's bag beside me, they represent more than just jewelry to you. They're proof that my work has value, I said. That I have value independent of my family's approval. Oliver nodded attentively. I absolutely get it. When I was 19, I sold my first program and used the proceeds to buy a stupidly costly watch. Not because I needed it, but because it symbolized validation. Exactly, I said, shocked at how accurately he had described the emotion. Our coffee cups were empty when Oliver looked at his phone and scowled slightly. I have a meeting in 30 minutes, but I've enjoyed our conversation. He hesitated before asking, what exactly do you do in graphic design? I am the lead designer of Stonebrook Designs. We manage the branding and marketing for several national accounts. I specialize in digital media integration. Oliver's eyes shone with eagerness. Digital media integration. We are now seeking for someone with that skills at Innovate Tech. Our marketing team requires fresh perspectives on our new consumer security app. Really? I could not disguise my surprise. Would you like to send your portfolio? There's no pressure, simply an opportunity to explore. My heart pounded at the possibility. Innovate Tech was noted for its innovative work atmosphere and generous remuneration packages. Even an interview would provide significant experience. I'd love to, I said, attempting to sound professional rather than enthusiastic. Oliver smiled and took out a business card. Email me directly. I'll make sure it gets to our creative director. As we stood to leave, Oliver halted. One more thing, don't let your sister's reaction diminish your achievement today. Those earrings represent your hard work. Wear them with pride. I nodded, moved by his empathy. Thank you for everything. Walking back to my car, I felt unusually light, despite the morning's events. The experience with Lily had been traumatic, but Oliver's unexpected mentorship had changed my outlook. For possibly the first time, I stood firm without apologizing for taking up space. My phone buzzed with incoming texts, 3 from my mother, 2 from my father, and 7 from Lily. I muted it without reading them. Whatever family storm was developing could wait until I was ready to confront it. By the time I got home that evening, my phone had 23 text messages and 9 missed calls. I scrolled through them while kicking off my shoes and collapsing on my couch. Lily's texts ranged from angry, "How dare you embarrass me like that?" to manipulative, "Mom is really upset with you," to faking conciliation, "I forgive you for overreacting." My parents' messages were typically one-sided, demanding that I call immediately to explain why I had caused a commotion and humiliated my sister. No one mentioned the slap. I laid the phone aside and took out the velvet box that held my new earrings. Under the warm lamplight, the diamonds caught fire and scattered little rainbows across my living room wall. They were stunning, but most importantly, they were mine. Earned with my own labor, chosen for my own preferences, and purchased with my own money. Instead of calling my family, I spent the evening working on my digital portfolio. If Oliver Grant's offer was true, I wanted to be ready. The response arrived the next morning when I was at work, almost making me drop my coffee mug. Katie, thank you for sending your impressive portfolio. Our creative director, Julia Thomas, would like to meet with you this Friday at 2 p.m. Please let me know if this works with your schedule. Regards, Oliver Grant. It was not just a polite introduction, he was actually setting up an interview. I instantly confirmed the time and spent the rest of the morning in a state of amazement and delight. That evening, I finally forced myself to call my folks. As expected, my mother responded with immediate displeasure. Katie Marie Hayes, what on earth happened yesterday? Lily is absolutely devastated. I took a deep breath. Mom, did Lily tell you she slapped me across the face in a public store? A pause. She said there was a misunderstanding that you were making a scene about her engagement. That's not what happened, I stated firmly. I was buying earrings with money from my recent promotion, which, by the way, no one congratulated me on at Sunday dinner. Lily showed up, criticized me, and when I wouldn't back down, she slapped me hard enough to leave a mark. Well, I'm sure she didn't mean it. She didn't mean it, I interjected. A stranger had to intervene because it was so inappropriate. The store owner asked her to leave. A stranger? Lily asked, referring to a man who became involved in a family company where he did not belong. I nearly laughed. That some man was Oliver Grant, the billionaire who founded Innovate Tech and noticed abusive behavior when it occurred. My mother fell silent while contemplating this information. Finally she added, "Your sister is still very upset." I'm sure she is. Being held accountable is upsetting when you're not used to it. Katie, that's a terrible thing to say about your sister. Is it, Mom? When was the last time Lily faced consequences for her actions? When was the last time you or Dad didn't take her side? Another pause. We don't take sides. This time I laughed. Mom, You've been taking sides our entire lives. I'm just finally acknowledging it. I don't know what's gotten into you, my mother said, her voice tense. This isn't like you at all. Maybe that's the problem, I answered gently. Maybe it's exactly what should have been like me all along. My mother expressed dissatisfaction with my attitude and suggested that I call Lily to apologize. I vowed to think about it, knowing I had no intention of making the call. Friday approached with a sense of expectation and nervousness. I dressed professionally, wearing my new earrings for confidence, and arrived at the elegant Innovate Tech headquarters 15 minutes early. The building was a modern architectural marvel, made entirely of glass and sustainable materials, with a stunning living wall of tropical plants in the foyer. The receptionist sent me to the 14th floor, where I was greeted by a pleasant assistant named Jordan. Miss Thomas is running a few minutes late, Jordan stated, leading me to a nice waiting room. Can I get you water or coffee? Water would be great, thank you. Jordan moved away, and a familiar voice called my name. Oliver Grant approached with a friendly smile, dressed more casually than at our initial meeting, dark slacks and a navy button-down. Katie, glad you could make it. How are you? Good, thank you. A little nervous, I confessed. No need to be. Julia was impressed with your portfolio, particularly the Sunrise Healthcare campaign. She's eager to meet you. We talked briefly about the company until a gorgeous woman with copper-colored hair and bright green glasses approached. You must be Katie, she stated, offering her hand. I'm Julia Thomas. Sorry for the delay. Creative emergencies, you know how it is. Absolutely, I smiled, instantly like her forthright demeanor. Oliver, are you sitting in? Julia inquired. If that's all right with both of you, he said. I have a personal interest in this particular hire. Julia raised an eyebrow but nodded. Let's use the Aspen conference room. I have never had an interview like this before. Rather of asking traditional questions about strengths and shortcomings, Julia led me through a deep discussion about design philosophy and creative problem solutions. She showed me current Innovate Tech marketing materials and asked for my honest feedback, nodding appreciatively to my recommendations. Oliver largely observed, but occasionally asked important questions regarding my collaboration process and flexibility. His presence was encouraging, rather than threatening, and I found myself speaking with surprising confidence about my vision and ability. One last question, Julia asked, staring at Oliver before continuing. Our team works closely with developers who can be, let's say, particular about their creations. How do you handle strong personalities and creative conflicts? I reflected on the several times I'd handled Lily's demands and my parents' expectations, finding diplomatic solutions while maintaining my own boundaries. I believe in finding the common goal beneath the conflict, I told him. Most creative disagreements stem from everyone wanting the best outcome but seeing different paths to get there. I try to honor each perspective while keeping the ultimate purpose in focus. Julia nodded, appearing satisfied. Well, Katie, this has been illuminating. We have a few more candidates to interview, but you'll hear from us by next Wednesday. As Julia was gathering her notes, Oliver inquired, Do you have time for a quick tour before you leave? I'd love that, I said, shocked at the offer. Oliver guided me through the creative office, introducing me to several team members along the way. The workplace was both collaborative and focused, with smart amenities such as quiet pods, standing workstations, and a beautiful rooftop garden where staff could work outside in nice weather. What do you think? Oliver inquired as we stood on the rooftop, overlooking the city. It's incredible, I replied. Honestly, everything seems designed to support both creativity and well-being. That's exactly the balance we strive for, he said with a wink. When people feel valued, they produce their best work. As we returned to the lobby, Oliver hesitated. I hope you don't find this intrusive, but I wanted to ask, how are things with your family after Tuesday's incident? I exhaled. Complicated. They expect me to apologize to Lily. They don't see her behavior as the problem. Oliver's expression was thoughtful. Family patterns are persistent. It took years for my brother and me to break ours. He took a breath and then, whatever happens with this position, Katie, don't lose the confidence you showed at Bellamy's. That kind of self-advocacy is valuable everywhere, not just in jewelry stores. Thank you, I said, moved by his continuous mentorship. That means a lot. As I drove home, I mused on the bizarre turn of events that had brought me here. A traumatic public confrontation has opened doors I never believed possible. Whether or not I got the job, something fundamental had changed in how I perceived myself and my talents. My phone rang as I drove into my apartment complex. It was Lily. After a moment of doubt, I responded. "Hello, Katie." Her tone was strained. "We need to talk about what happened." I took a deep breath. "Yes, we do. But not if the conversation begins with you expecting me to apologize." "Excuse me?" Her tone became sharper. "You embarrassed me in front of my friends." "No, Lily. You embarrassed yourself by slapping me in public. That's assault, by the way." "Don't be so dramatic. It was barely a tap." "It was hard enough to leave a mark," I argued. "And you did it because I wouldn't let you make me feel bad about buying something nice for myself." "This isn't about the stupid earrings," she exclaimed. "It's about you trying to steal attention from my engagement." The familiar allegation may have previously made me defensive. Now it sounded pathetic. "Lily, buying earrings has nothing to do with your engagement. Not everything is about you." "You've changed," she accused. "You're not the same sister anymore." "You're right," I agreed. "I have changed. I'm not going to shrink myself to make you comfortable anymore." The line went silent for a few seconds. When Lily spoke again, her tone was calmer and more controlled. "Mom and Dad want us all at dinner this Sunday and they expect you to be there." This was a mandate, not an invitation. Previously, I would have complied automatically. "I'll think about it," I responded instead. "I have a lot going on right now." "What could you possibly have going on?" The dismissive tone was so familiar that it almost made me chuckle. "Actually, I just interviewed at Innovate Tech." "That's some man who intervened at the jewelry store. He arranged it." Another lapse in stillness. "You're making that up." "Why would I make that up?" "To sound important," Lily said, but I could hear the doubt in her voice. "Nobody gets jobs through random encounters." "Believe whatever you want," I responded, growing tired of the conversation. "I need to go. If I decide to come Sunday, I'll let Mom know." I hung up the phone before she could speak, feeling a strange combination of loss and liberty. The traditional storyline of our relationship was evolving, and while change was inevitable, it was not without sorrow. My mother texted me on Sunday. "Dinner at 5. Dad's making his pot roast. Please be on time and dress nicely." The note made no mention of our heated exchange or the event with Lily. It was as if she expected everything to return to normal with sheer force of will. In the past, I could have complied by arriving with a placating grin and an implied apology in my demeanor. Instead, I wrote back, "I'll be there at 5:15. I have errands to run first." A minor insurrection, yet significant. I was no longer accepting their demands without question. I dressed carefully, wearing black pants, a forest green blouse, and, after some contemplation, my new diamond earrings. They caught the light as I turned my head, reminding me of the strength I had discovered at Bellamy's. Whatever happened at dinner, I would not diminish myself just to keep the peace. The drive to my parents' suburban house seemed longer than usual. I practiced potential reactions to allegations, preparing firm yet calm responses to the criticism I expected. My palms were sweating by the time I turned into the driveway at 5:17, but my resolve had not wavered. My father answered the door with a mixture of disgust and anxiety. "You're late," he said as a greeting. "Hello to you too, Dad," I said, stepping past him into the familiar entryway. The place smelled of pot roast and stress. In the living room, Lily sat on the edge of the sofa, looking through her phone. She looked up as I arrived, her expression tightening. "Look who finally decided to show up," she said to nobody in particular. I elected not to participate. Instead, I stepped into the kitchen, where my mother was preparing a salad. She looked up with a strained smile. "Katie, good. You're here. Could you set the table?" The familiar plea, usually addressed at me and never at Lily, almost had me give in reflexively. Instead, I paused. "Actually, Mom, I thought we might talk first about what happened at Bellamy's." Her hands remained still on the salad tongs. "I don't think that's necessary. We've all had time to cool down. Let's just have a nice family dinner." A nice family dinner where we pretend Lily didn't slap me in public. Where we act like nothing happened. My mother's smile grew tight. "Katie, please. Your sister is under a lot of stress with the wedding planning. Let's not make mountains out of molehills." The downsizing was so foreseeable that it was almost amusing. Before I could reply, Lily arrived in the doorway. "Are you still going on about that?" "It was days ago." "5 days," I said. And yes, I'm still going on about it because no one has acknowledged what actually happened. My father joined us, looking cautious. What's all this about? Katie is being dramatic about our little disagreement at the jewelry store. Lily rolled her eyes. It wasn't a disagreement. You slapped me across the face because I wouldn't let you bully me. Girls, my father interrupted. Let's calm down. And I am calm, I added. I am stating facts. Lily assaulted me in public. A store owner witnessed it and asked her to leave. A complete stranger had to intervene. That man had no right to get involved in family business, my mother stated politely. That man, I said, recognized abusive behavior when he saw it. Something this family seems incapable of doing. A deep quiet descended over the kitchen. My mother's face paled, and my father's brow furrowed into a profound scowl. Abusive? He repeated. That's a serious accusation, Katie. It's not an accusation. It's a description, I said, maintaining my tone. Lily has been verbally tearing me down for years, and you've both enabled it. Tuesday was just the first time it became physical. That is completely unfair, Lily complained. I've always been supportive of you. The apparent alteration of history may have once made me question my own experience. Now it's just cemented my resolve. Name one time I challenged. One specific instance where you supported me instead of competing with me or diminishing my achievements. Lily opened her mouth before closing it again. Her gaze turned to our parents for help. Katie, my mother said, her tone conciliatory. Families have ups and downs. Nobody's perfect, but we love each other, and that's what matters. Love without respect isn't love, I answered. It's control, and I'm done being controlled. What does that mean? My father inquired, his voice rising in anxiety. I took a deep breath. It means I'm setting boundaries. I won't participate in family gatherings where Lily's behavior is excused and mine is policed. I won't pretend everything is fine when it isn't. And I won't apologize for standing up for myself. So, you're giving us an ultimatum? My father asked incredulously. No, Dad. I'm telling you what I need to have a healthy relationship with all of you. What you do with that information is your choice. Lily scoffed. This is ridiculous. You're acting like I committed some horrible crime. It was one slap. One slap is too many, I responded calmly. And it's not just about the slap. It's about years of being treated as less than, of having my accomplishments minimized while yours are celebrated. That's not true, my mother argued. We've always been proud of both our girls. Really? When I told you about my promotion, you barely acknowledged it. When Lily announced her engagement to a man she's dated for 5 months, you threw an impromptu celebration. Is that different? That's different, my father added. An engagement is a life event, and a significant career advancement isn't, I challenged. Or is it just that Lily's achievements align with what you value while mine don't? The question hovered in the air, unsettling in its precision. My mother distracted herself with the salad again, avoiding eye contact. My father shifted his weight, appearing abruptly older. Those are pretty earrings, my mother added quickly, shifting the subject. New? Yes, I touched it reflexively. These are what I was buying when Lily slapped me. They look expensive, she said, her tone indicating displeasure. They were. I could afford them because of my promotion. Well, they're lovely, she said hesitantly. We entered the dining room in tense stillness. As we took our customary seats, I realized my mother had reserved a 5th seat. Are we expecting someone? I inquired. Ethan is joining us, Lily said with a smug look. My fiancé should be part of family dinners, don't you think? The accent on fiancé was intentional. The comparison of her relationship status to mine's single status was such an obvious attempt to reassert superiority that I almost pitied her. The doorbell rang, and Lily got up to answer. She returned a few moments later, accompanied by Ethan, a tall man with a pleasant face and hesitant eyes. He nodded graciously in my direction as Lily led him to the seat beside her. Ethan, you remember my sister Katie, she replied, her tone implying I was a distant acquaintance rather than an actual family member. Of course, he said smiling. Congratulations on your promotion. Lily mentioned you work in graphic design. She did. I couldn't contain my surprise. Yes, he answered. You're quite talented. I looked at Lily, who had suddenly become quite concerned in straightening her napkin. Had she said anything complimentary about me? Thank you, I responded. And congratulations on your engagement. The evening continued with careful conversation, with everyone avoiding the previous incident. My father mentioned an upcoming school board meeting. My mother complained about her boutique's new inventory system, and Ethan discussed a property he was listing when dinner was served. My mom's apple pie was on the table. Ethan spotted my jewelry. Those are beautiful, he said. Lily was telling me about your visit to Bellamy's. Quite an upscale place. Lily seemed obviously nervous when I mentioned our visit. I wondered what version of events she had told her fiancé. Yes, it was my first time there, I said cautiously. I had an unexpected encounter with Oliver Grant while shopping. Ethan's eyebrows rose. The Oliver Grant of Innovate Tech? The same, I said. Actually, I interviewed at his company on Friday. You did? My mother asked, apparently shocked. You didn't mention that. I wasn't sure you'd be interested, I said truthfully. It's just a career opportunity, not a life event. My father winced slightly when he saw his comments reflected back at him. Of course we're interested, he replied. Tell us about it. So I did, he said, citing the stunning headquarters, Julia Thomas's engaging interview manner, and the innovative work atmosphere. As I spoke, I noticed my family paying close attention for the first time in years. They said they'd let me know by Wednesday, I added. It would be a significant step up in both responsibility and compensation. That's wonderful, Katie, my mother responded, and I was taken aback by her genuineness. We are proud of you, you know, even if we don't always show it properly. The simple acknowledgement brought unexpected tears to my eyes. It wasn't an apology, but it was the beginning. Lily remained silent throughout this conversation, but as we were clearing the dessert plates, she approached me in the kitchen. Did you really meet Oliver Grant? She questioned, her voice too low for our parents to hear. Yes, I said while rinsing a plate. He mistook me for his wife at first. Lily remained silent for a bit and then said, That's actually pretty cool. I stared at her, looking for sarcasm or a concealed barb, but her expression appeared genuine. The earrings do look nice on you, she added nervously. I shouldn't have made such a scene at the store. It wasn't a formal apology, but coming from Lily was meaningful. I chose to meet her halfway. Thank you. And your ring is beautiful. Ethan seems like a good person. She nodded, a slight smile on her lips. He is. He actually lectured me about the slapping thing, said it was unacceptable. Smart man, I said, shocked and pleased by Ethan's moral sense. Yeah, Lily confirmed. Maybe I got lucky with this one. As I drove home that night, I considered the small changes that had transpired. Nothing had been drastically resolved. There were no dramatic group embraces or profound family disclosures, but something had changed in me, and probably in them too. As I drove inside my apartment complex, my phone lit up with a text message. The call was from an unknown number. Katie, it's Oliver Grant. Julia was very impressed with your interview. Before we make a formal offer, Sophia would like to meet you. She returns from London tomorrow, lunch on Tuesday, let me know if you're available. I stared at the message, not daring to believe what it meant. A formal offer from Innovate Tech. As I typed my joyful acceptance, I noticed my reflection in the rearview mirror. The gems in my earrings caught the streetlight and shone like small stars. They were lovely, certainly, but what they signified was far more valuable. I realized my worth was not defined by my sister's opinion or my parents' acceptance. Sometimes the most painful conflicts resulted in the most significant growth. Sometimes a slap in a jewelry store can change the course of a life. 1 month later, I sat at my sleek new desk on the 12th level of Innovate Tech headquarters, finishing up a presentation for the security app launch. My workstation looked out over the metropolitan skyline, and natural light streamed in via floor-to-ceiling windows. A little potted succulent, a welcome gift from my staff, rested next to my dual monitors. The adjustment had been quick and exciting. After meeting Sophia Grant, a pleasant, educated woman who had an eerie resemblance to myself from certain angles, I received the formal offer the next day. The income was roughly double what I had been earning at Stonebrook Designs, and the benefits included stock options, flexible work arrangements, and a professional development allowance. Giving Rachel notice had been bittersweet. She had been a supportive supervisor and mentor, but she couldn't deny that the opportunity was too wonderful to pass up. How did you even get on their radar? She inquired, genuinely interested. When I told her about the jewelry store incident, she chuckled in surprise. Only you, Katie, would turn getting slapped in public into a career advancement. My new position as senior creative strategist required both liberty and responsibility. I lead a small team that created the visual identity and user experience for Innovate Tech's consumer goods. The work was both hard and rewarding, encouraging me to broaden my talents while valuing my prior knowledge. Sophia had become an unexpected friend and ally. Despite her wealth and status, or perhaps because of them, she was refreshingly unassuming. We periodically had lunch together in the rooftop garden, where she gave tips for navigating the business world and developing true relationships inside it. Oliver told me about the problem with your sister, which she had revealed over one such meal. I have a similar dynamic with my brother. It took years of therapy for me to stop seeking his approval. Her candor made me feel less alone in my family problems. It was reassuring to know that even those who appeared to have it all together had their own challenging relationships to handle. Oliver kept a professional distance at work, treating me the same as he would other team members, but he'd occasionally stop by my desk with a meaningful question or suggestion. His mentorship was subtle, yet consistent. The other employees appeared to accept me on my own merits rather than as Oliver's discovery, which was a comfort. At home, I'd moved into a somewhat larger apartment in a building with a fitness facility and community garden. The move had been partially feasible. The new location was closer to Innovate Tech, but it also served as a signal of a new beginning for my professional career. My diamond earrings maintained a special spot in my jewelry box, where I wore them during crucial presentations and to remind myself of my worth. They represented not just a purchase, but a watershed moment. The day I stopped shrinking to fit others' anxieties. My phone vibrated with a text from Lily. Our relationship had entered an unusual new phase. Not precisely, but less aggressive. She waited nearly 2 weeks after the Sunday dinner confrontation to send a brief message. I've been thinking about what happened. I shouldn't have slapped you. That was wrong. I'm sorry. The apology was brief, but appeared sincere. I had reacted with equal brevity. Thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate the apology. Since then, we've exchanged a few texts, primarily surface-level updates, but without the competitive undercurrent that had previously marked our conversations. Today's message was more substantial. Mom's birthday dinner next Saturday, 6 p.m. Ethan and I have news to share. Would like you to be there. I examined the invitation. Family gatherings were still difficult, but each one seemed less unpleasant than the last. My parents had made minor but evident attempts to express interest in my new career and life. My father had even come to my new apartment to help place shelves and express genuine admiration for my professional achievement. I'll be there, I responded back. Need me to bring anything? Just yourself, was the response, followed by a second message. And maybe those earrings. Mom mentioned she liked them. The simple acknowledgement made me happy. A month ago, Lily would never have advised I wear something that would attract notice or compliments. I intended to meet Sophia in the lobby at the end of the day. We started taking Friday evening walks through the nearby sculpture garden, where we talked about everything from work projects to book recommendations to family issues. How was your week? She inquired as we fell into stride along the tree-lined route. Productive, I responded. The security app interface is nearly finalized, and I hired a junior designer who has incredible talent with animation. Oliver mentioned your team is ahead of schedule. He's impressed. I felt a surge of pride at the oblique compliment. What about you? How was the technology conference? Sophia discussed her experiences as a keynote speaker, and I pondered on how much my life had changed in just 4 weeks. Beyond the material improvements, better work, nicer apartment, improved financial security, the most significant change occurred internally. I moved through the world with confidence rather than apologizing. The road had not been easy. I'd had several sessions with a therapist, working through the family patterns that had shaped my self-perception. Learning to set limits without guilt was a daily task, but each small win strengthened my resolve. You seem contemplative today, Sophia said as we stood by a modern sculpture of entwined metal ribbons. I was just thinking about how different things were a month ago, I told him. Sometimes I still can't believe that Lily slapping me in Bellamy's led to all this. Sophia grinned. The catalyst isn't always pleasant, is it? But sometimes we need a shock to break old patterns. True, I nodded. Though I wouldn't recommend getting publicly assaulted as a career strategy. We both smiled and continued our walk as the sunset light became golden across the grounds. Later that night, while I prepared dinner in my new kitchen, I saw myself humming blissfully. My phone received an email notification. The professional development course I had applied for had been approved. Another minor success. Another step forward. I considered the forthcoming birthday meal with my family. There would most likely be awkward moments, and possibly even conflicts. Lily's news may include a pregnancy, wedding details, or another life event that would reintroduce her into the family story. But that was fine. Her moments of celebration did not diminish mine. There was room for both of our stories. The earrings would accompany me this time, serving as a remembrance rather than armor. A reminder that speaking my truth, even when it was uncomfortable, had resulted in progress I had not expected. A reminder that even the most painful confrontations can provide space for the most profound transformations. My path from that moment at Bellamy's jewelry to my current life had not been linear or straightforward. The journey to self-worth is rarely clear, but each step was vital. The humiliation of the slap, the unexpected alliance with Oliver, the conflict with my family, the opportunity at Innovate Tech, and the constant effort to preserve boundaries. The diamonds caught the light as I arranged them in my jewelry box for Saturday's dinner. They shined not only due to their intrinsic brilliance, but also because of the story they now held. My tale of discovering value beyond affirmation from others. Sometimes life's most significant lessons are delivered in terrible packages. Sometimes what appears to be an end is actually a beginning. And sometimes when someone attempts to make you feel tiny, the best answer is to expand into your whole amazing self.